You know, back in the Old West, people were hiding in places like this to get away from claim jumpers or outlaws or cattle rustlers, but we don't have to worry about that nowadays. However, I do want to talk to you about what many consider the best Western of all time, The Searchers, directed by John Ford. This is the Kazdoy Closet. I'm Kazdoy. That's the closet full of all the stuff that I like. Let's talk about it. So, when I had my film class in high school, I used to ask the kids at the beginning of the semester, hey, what's your favorite genre? Could it be horror films? That was always a big popular choice. Or comedies, or musical comedies, or documentaries, or fantasy films, or animation. How about Westerns? And that always landed with a big thumbs down. They didn't like Westerns very much. I think they associated them with their dads or their grandpas, so I think they thought they were a little bit too old-fashioned. But I did want to show them a Western because they were such a popular genre for so long. And I figured, let me show them the Western that is considered the best by many people, and that is The Searchers, directed by John Ford in 1956 and starring John Wayne. It is also been called the most influential film ever made by many people. And it's a darker, more disturbing type of Western, mainly because the main character is a racist. Now, the plot of The Searchers, and let me show you the the DVD cover here of an old copy. The plot of The Searchers is a man, played by John Wayne. His family is killed, and his niece, during this incident, is abducted by the Comanches. So the John Wayne character goes on a 5-year search to find his niece. However, he's not going on the search to rescue his niece. He's going on the search to kill his niece because he's such a racist that he believes that if the Comanches are going to raise his niece, played by a beautiful Natalie Wood, that she is better off dead than being raised as a Comanche. Now, going along with John Wayne's character is the niece's half-brother, and he's sort of there to rescue the niece, make sure that John Wayne's character doesn't kill her. This was the 115th film by John Ford, which I know sounds like a lot, but keep in mind that he made a lot of silent films, and some of those are pretty short. This is his 12th collaboration with John Wayne. Most people consider it the greatest collaboration they did. Ford basically made John Wayne a star with his film Stagecoach, and they had sort of a father-son relationship, but John Ford had a reputation for not being so nice to some of his actors and verbally abusing them, even in front of other people. But people sort of went along with it, meaning the actors and the crew, because they wanted to work with John Ford and they just tolerated it. The actors and the crew members were usually the same group of people when John Ford made his films. He had a very family-like atmosphere, and that comes through in his films as well. John Ford is also known for his bold compositional style and his bold visual style. He also shows instead of telling, and his violence, especially in The Searchers, is often off-screen and not on-screen, which makes it even more effective. For example, when he goes to the remains of his family, the burning ranch house, he picks up a dress that belonged to his sister-in-law, Martha, and there's blood on the dress. And we, as the audience, we don't see Martha's body, but we have to figure out, why is she not wearing that dress, and why is there blood on it? And that makes it even more powerful, and also enrages John Wayne's character even more to get revenge and to find his niece. So the location for The Searchers was one of John Ford's favorites. He liked to get out of Hollywood anytime he could. And he shot The Searchers in the Monument Valley in Utah. And when you worked on a John Ford Western, you were pretty much living in a Western. The cast and the crew, it was a huge undertaking to move everything into this area. And you worked together, and you ate together, and you lived in close quarters, and you braved the elements together, the wind and the dust storms and the intense heat, and it sort of brought you together as a family. John Wayne was a pretty iconic symbol of America. That's why this film is so interesting, because he is an anti-hero in this film, because he is such a racist and hates Indians so much. Interestingly, he knows a lot about the Indians in the film, and there's even a parallel between him and the Indian chief Scar, because they both have lost family members to the opposing side, and they're both sort of the patriarchs of the family. So there's a lot of parallels between the two of them. The themes of The Searchers are, like I said, the importance of family, the racism and that is inherent in John Wayne's character. Martin Scorsese called The Searchers a film about the American psyche. Another theme of The Searchers is a theme that's found often in Westerns, and that is freedom versus conformity. Freedom represented by John Wayne's character, who kind of roams from place to place and does what he wants, and he's out living under the stars. And conformity, which is the half-brother's character, who is being encouraged to settle down and get married and start a ranch and have a few cattle, so on and so forth. A lot of people were influenced by The Searchers. For example, Steven Spielberg, in his film Close Encounters of the Third Kind, there's a structure that looks like kind of like this that Richard Dreyfuss's character is trying to reproduce all the time. And that structure is really similar to a structure in Monument Valley in The Searchers and many other Ford Westerns. George Lucas, another filmmaker greatly influenced by The Searchers. If you see Star Wars, and you probably have, the scenes, the desert type scenes on that planet Tatooine, very similar to how John Ford shot the desert in his films. Paul Schrader made a film called Hardcore, which involves a man played by George C. Scott who is searching for his daughter who was abducted, and she was forced to go into the porno film industry, and he's trying to rescue her from that. The great Japanese filmmaker Akira Kurosawa, director of such great films as Seven Samurai and Yojimbo and Ikiru and so many other great films, was once asked, where did you get your sense of visual style, your vision? Did you study great painters and artists? And Kurosawa said, no, I studied the films of John Ford. Quentin Tarantino's film Inglourious Basterds uses a device or a shot that is a direct ripoff, an homage to John Ford's Searchers. In the beginning sequence of Inglourious Basterds, when the Nazis are coming to the farmhouse to search for Jews hiding under the floorboards, the end of that sequence with one of them running away into the open field and you see the door closing on her, that's a direct reference to the Searchers' closing and opening shots. Martin Scorsese probably influenced by The Searchers more than anybody, especially in his film Taxi Driver. Now, Scorsese said The Searchers was one of his top 10 favorite films of all time. And that's saying a lot, considering that Scorsese has such an encyclopedic knowledge of films from all over the world. But in Taxi Driver, you have another girl, played by Jodie Foster, abducted and forced into prostitution. And then you have a man, Robert De Niro, who is searching for her and trying to rescue her. Now, just to take that cowboy theme even further. Harvey Keitel, who plays the pimp, wears a Indian headband, and De Niro's character is called Cowboy several times by different people in the film. Finally, the great rock and roll singer and songwriter Buddy Holly was influenced by The Searchers when he went to see it in the theater with his bandmates, because John Wayne's character says the phrase, "That'll be the day," about 4 times, and Buddy Holly really liked that phrase, so he incorporated it into his classic rock and roll song, "That'll Be the Day." Now, when The Searchers came out in 1956, it was pretty well reviewed. There were some mixed reviews. Ultimately, AFI, the American Film Institute, named The Searchers as the greatest Western of all time. As I showed you before, here's the DVD I bought many years ago, and it's a 50th anniversary edition. It's got a few extras like some photos and a comic book adaptation inside here, and this extra disc with some interviews with people and stuff like that. And it was part of this box that I got called the John Wayne Jawed Ford collection, about 8 of their films together. And I got this at Costco many years ago for maybe $30 or so. And last time I looked, Amazon had it listed for $129, so maybe it's a collector's item or something. But you can still get The Searchers on Blu-ray. You know, I'm sure it looks really good, and it's quite cheap. It's $10-15. There was some talk that the studios or some people were going to put out a big deluxe Blu-ray of it with all kinds of extra bells and whistles, but it never happened. So that's The Searchers, one of my favorite Westerns, maybe my favorite. I'd have to think about that, but considered by many to be the favorite, the best Western of all time, but even more importantly, considered by many to be the most influential film of any type of all time. So what do you think? Leave a comment down there. Did I forget something? Is there another Western you want to make a case for? Maybe you prefer The Good and the Bad and the Ugly, or maybe you prefer The Magnificent Seven, or High Noon, or Once Upon a Time in the West, or who knows what. Let me know what you think. Leave a thumbs up. Don't leave a thumbs down. And subscribe. Be cool. Otherwise, thanks for watching. I'm going to head back to the ranch, and I'll see you next time.